My name's Chris.
And I'm Kristie.
This is the Washing Up Podcast, and we're not even going to bother with pretending. It's Jay!
Woo!
How are we going, Jay?
Good. How are you guys?
Oh, we are fantastic. It is an absolute pleasure to get to talk to you.
Oh, it's a pleasure to be here.
Oh,
we flew him all the way from Canada to Australia just for a nice Sunday brunch.
Yep.
Oh, that sounds, yes, absolutely.
yeah, like it's
Mimosas?
a short flight. It's great.
Yeah. I will just pop on some, I don't know, what's that stuff called? Eggs Benedict?
Eggs Benedict.
With the smashed avocado.
Oh, yeah, well, because we can't afford a house, clearly, because, avocado.
Do I look like somebody who eats avocado?
Nah.
No.
I'm not, anyway. I'm very much not.
I will have all the avocado for myself.
You can
Okay.
enjoy that, and we will enjoy other things, because I'm going to lead off with the fact that, rather than go into the how are you or what was it like being on the show, I'm going to lead off with the fact that you had one of my favourite comments from a judge ever when in your Memphis coffee cake, when one of the bits of feedback you got was good distribution of bacon.
Not something you hear in every bake-off, is it?
Not obvious for baking, but I feel like it should be said more.
I would agree.
So,
Is that just a natural skill, or have you been practicing it for years, just distributing the bacon?
Well, pork products are a part of my life.
As they should be, yeah. No, well, friend of the podcast, Robert Harwood, obviously agreed, because his mantra in life was, when in doubt, throw some bacon at it.
I agree.
It's a good mantra to have. I need to lead off to that Memphis coffee cake because, besides the not cooked in the middle bit, which we'll ignore, pretend.
I know Chris is very good at just hitting those tender spots there, Jay.
But then he follows it up with things like the combination of the peanut butter and the bacon. Inspired, absolutely inspired.
Have you ever had peanut butter and bacon?
I have.
I haven't.
Haven't you?
It's amazing.
Oh my
God, Kristie, you need to do this. You need to do this right now. Call the waiter.
Excuse me.
I'm here. Oh, he's gone. We'll get him back later.
Anyway, no, a little bit of toast with some lovely, nice melted peanut butter on it and some fresh, greasy bacon. The salty and the sweet. It's so good.
Is it better crispy, or do I want it just kind of
Bacon's always better crispy.
Okay.
I feel bacon's better crispy. My husband likes it a little less crispy.
Oh, it's the give and take in the relationship that makes it.
It is. So I take his bacon out of the pan first.
It's I'm just letting my fat render down and just a little bit more, my love.
That's right.
When we were growing up, Mum used to sort of worry about burning the bacon, and my brother and I really liked sort of ultra crispy bacon.
Yeah.
So we used an extractor. So because we figured if we extracted her while she was cooking the bacon and it got burnt, well then we had more bacon and it would be crispy. And it worked every single time. It worked. Hi, Mum, because she'll listen to this.
Your poor mum.
Yeah, well, we got bacon.
I barely remember having bacon and eggs growing up. I know we had it, but I think it was because my mum cooked it normally. She didn't burn it or blow it up or anything, that it wasn't memorable.
I was about to say, this is when you've had a deprived childhood. I don't remember having bacon and eggs growing up. It's sad.
Well, you know me, I'm a bandit for corn, Cocoa Pops, so I'm
definitely.
easily...
Oh, no. Okay, I'm all about Cocoa Puffs. Now, let's be honest here. But I'm the youngest I'm the youngest of 7 kids, so when we did have bacon, it was a big deal because it was kind of expensive.
Yeah, particularly for 7 kids. Oh, that would be, Christmas morning breakfast.
Well, I was an oops anyway because my oldest sister is 23 years older than I am.
Oh wow!
So yeah.
I thought I had a big age gap. My older sister's 11 years older than I am, or 11 and a half. It gets very confusing. She's born in December, so I thought she was 50 this year. No, she was 50 last year. So I looked like a bit of a dickhead. And I was just planning a normal kind of dinner out for her for her birthday. My mum's like, she's 50 this year. And I'm like, what? Oh, okay. I will just go to a fancier restaurant now.
You know what you should have done?
No, McDonald's.
You should have done peanut butter and bacon. Would have been great.
Oh, yes. That's this year.
Peanut butter bacon and peanut streusel is fantastic.
Oh, yes. And
okay.
that Memphis coffee cake, I was kind of, obviously I was disappointed by what happened at the end of it, obviously, but sounded like perfect. Like it absolutely sounded perfect. I'm assuming this is something that exists in your life regularly.
It is.
Good.
It is. And it's, honestly, I just made it again last weekend.
Oh, what was that for? Just shits and giggles, or
Total shits and giggles. It was.
Who doesn't?
My husband started working with a new group, so I decided, here, take this in. This will make you friends.
like, I'll get you a raise. Promotion on the first day.
You're hired a second time. So, in terms of going on to the show, sort of how were you with the different versions of Bake Off around the world?
I was actually quite familiar with them because, I had lived in Sweden for about 4 years. So I was there when the Swedish version started.
Ooh.
Friends of mine in the UK brought me up to speed very quickly on the British version. I knew the Australian version existed. I knew that there was one in Ireland and I think in a couple of other places. Then, you look online and you see how often Love Productions has sold the rights, and it's really kind of all over. There's a lot of them. Some are better than others.
There are some that are better than others, and we're not biased or anything, but we put Canadian and Australian actually
up there.
I put them above British. I
would probably agree, but I'm a little biased.
I feel like the vibe is better, the feeling's better, and it suits the two countries, I think, a lot better.
Yes.
Yeah.
So when you were going to audition for the Canadian baking show, I'm going to be kind and call it what it's.
I still call it Bake Off.
Okay, Bake Off. It felt so weird saying that. Did you suddenly go, okay, I need to practice, or are you just like, bitch, I've got this. I've been baking since I was born. Step aside.
I was literally traveling for work. I think I had to go into Montreal for the audition on Saturday morning. I came back from traveling for about 7 days for work on Thursday. So I came home, I baked, I made I made a batch of croissant, I made a batch of puff pastries so I could make Danish.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
So I had backup options in case what I wanted to do from Friday night, on Friday night didn't work. So I had 3 options just in case.
Nice. I was like, what's it called when you study at the end? You cram baked.
Well, and as you see in the tent or the shed or whatever, nothing ever really works the way you think it will when you really want it to.
No, it's. I mean, there are obvious examples. We mentioned one before.
Yes.
But it's also about that adaptation, like with the dog sanctuary, where you sort of had to adapt what you did.
It's a bush.
Yes, it's a bush now. It's a shrub. How far were you prepared to go down for that? It's grassland. It's now grassland. It's
just a root system.
Moss.
It's a putting green. It's a putting green with little cogs now. Right?
It's a dirt patch. The dogs have clearly been digging.
That's right.
But that adaptation and that adaptability is sort of what I think makes someone who's really good and makes someone that's sort of well suited to going on to any of the versions of Bake Off, because as you said, things aren't going to work the way you think they are. They never do.
Well, and people have asked me before, what's it like? And I'm like, it's like somebody takes a stove, throws it out in your yard, puts a tent over it and says bake. What do you think it is?
Well, we've had Robert has talked on the show before. Robert Harwood has talked on the show before.
Yeah.
Right, and the shed has a floor that sort of bounces a little bit. It's a bit springy because it's a temporary structure. And,
sure.
And they've got the open sides as well, and so they said the oven temperatures can vary greatly, and the doors can bounce open, and you've got to be prepared to adjust and adapt.
You learn very quickly in week 1. Anything that worked at home, forget it.
I wonder if that's where Liam had a bit of an advantage because of his cooking outdoors.
Yes.
Oh, but Liam's like a magical unicorn.
Yes, he's a fawn.
He is a fawn.
Christie's woodland fawn metaphor, I think, is perfect.
I'm convinced he's a woodland fawn that's been released by Dionysus from the Bacchanalia to come and cook in the pavilion. Okay.
Yeah, either that or a gnome. I mean, I saw some mushrooms growing on my front lawn, and I stopped by to see if Liam was home.
He's like, "Would you like something to eat?"
Exactly.
No, but look, actually, in all honesty, I actually think that Liam's experience cooking outside really helps with something like this.
Oh my God, yeah. I mean, he has skill sets that the rest of us just kind of could only dream of.
It's genuinely, genuinely incredible in that adaptability.
I'm surprised I didn't see him at one point just go out and like dig a hungy to start.
Let's go.
Just gonna whip up some lunch while we're here.
So in terms of the bakes that you obviously undertook while you were there, mm-hmm. I'm going to later on praise your ability in technicals, but before I praise your ability in technicals, we need to talk creme caramel.
Oh my God!
We need to talk creme caramel because I've never seen a challenge where everyone just no one got it. Like even which were okay, still didn't quite get there. And the look on your faces when Bruno came back in, and the look on Bruno's face when he came back in, and just the guys seriously, and everyone trying to look both disappointed and upset and giggling uncontrollably.
I have no idea how they got even what they did of footage because we were literally laughing through the entire thing in tears.
What was the general mood and reaction of everyone while they were doing this?
Oh, for fuck's sake. That's really...
It just felt like one of those challenges where everyone went, this is going to be whatever the fuck it's going to be. We don't really know, but fuck it.
Well, I mean, there was a period of time where it's like, you all start watching each other. We're not allowed to talk to each other during the technical, but you're all watching each other. And, next thing you know, people are putting foil tents over theirs, and people are looking going, well, maybe I should open the oven and put a foil tent over it. But if I open the oven, oh my God, all the heat's going to escape. What do I do? And, you have Colin, and Colin was over on the other side from me, but he and I were actually sharing a freezer, and he's like standing in front of the freezer. and I love Colin to death, but Aurora was over there talking to me, and she's like, what's he doing over there? And I said, I don't know, but if he blocks me, I'm just going to knock him out of the way.
Hip check. You've got a rubby background.
Little did I know he was talking about Beyonce and jiggling, but hey, I found that out later.
But it's one of the most, like I said, we were talking about it the other night on the podcast, and Robert's going to love this because I'm bringing his name up again. But the reason I'm bringing this up this time was he actually went through on the episode the other night. He went through and talked about the difficulty of creme caramel, which is the different types of what you need to do for that, and the different sort of custard that you actually need to make for a creme caramel, and how you got to set it, and
yep.
It's so complicated if you've never made one before. As you said, you've either made one and you know how to do it, or you haven't.
Just deceptive.
And for me, I mean, I made them, but it was so long ago
that
it didn't stick. And I'm going, okay, do I cook the custard or do I put it in cold? And for the life of me, I couldn't remember, so I erred on the wrong side.
But everyone erred on the wrong side, really. So.
Well, yeah.
It looked like a lovely puddle. They all looked like a really good drinkable mixture. You could have.
All I'll say is I'm glad I did not have to taste them all.
Yeah, it's probably a good the amount of like the levels of baking and curdling and scrambled egging, and I just there are days where you know that the judges sometimes are feeling like they've got some hazard pay, and
that was one of them.
Yeah, when you're worried about curdled egg, that might be one of the times where you're like, you know what, am I being paid enough? But to counterbalance that horrible technical for everybody, your first two technicals were really damn good.
Yeah. It's
the roulade. So you managed to sit first in the roulade. I mean, it's a big start. Mm-hmm. Always going big at the start, but also not putting the strawberries in the roll actually helped. So it was one of those sort of tricky circumstances, I think, where it's about getting that roll right. So yeah, so in terms of just the rolling and not putting the strawberries in it, I mean, it seems now like it was a blinding insight, but had you done the strawberry roulade before?
I've not done a strawberry roulade, but I've done other roulades and other rolls. And I have seen them with fruit in them, but it didn't say to put the fruit in it.
Yeah.
So I didn't.
Nice work. Yeah.
That's. I mean, with the technical, you've got to be careful because they don't write anything on the damn technical.
No.
Well, I went with, my gut instinct said don't do it. You want a nice, when you cut into it, you want a nice swirl. And all I could think of is if I put a bunch of fruit in there, that's not going to be a nice swirl.
No, it's going to be a manky swirl.
Exactly.
Manky Swirl sounds like the name of an independent band.
Yeah, a grunge girl band that's like
Manky Swirl.
Pussy Riot.
Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, Manky Swirl.
Manky Swirl. I like that.
and then you managed to come second in Kristie's favourite technical, the chocolate nipples. So,
chocolate nipples.
Yeah, the chocolate nipples. So, I mean, Kristie can just wax lyrical about chocolate nipples for hours.
I'm a big fan of chocolate nipples. My step grandmother was the first one to give me chocolate nipples as a child, and I haven't quite gotten over that.
It sounds like Child and Protective Services should get involved in
doesn't it? It really does, doesn't it? Yeah, no, it's interesting because like we've got them here obviously, and they're here the branded version of chocolate royales,
right?
But they're only ever called chocolate nipples. Like most people just go chocolate nipples.
And do you purchase them in Canada, or are they a homemade kind of?
No, they are purchased. I think in Canada we call them whippets.
Ooh.
Devo will want royalties. Devo will want royalties because they need the money. So clearly they need the money. So like those two technicals there, obviously, like winning the technical is probably, I think, the hardest one of those rounds because it's the unseen and because those instructions are not there. So what's sort of the key to being good at a technical?
I wish I could tell you.
I
was hoping for that response, in all honesty. Like, sure.
It's the correct sacrifice to the pavilion gods. The bake-off gods demand a sacrifice, and if you get the right one, you get blessed at the technical.
The only thing I can say is, leading up to my actual in-person audition, and then between the audition and when I actually was told, hi, you're going to be on this, I practiced skills. I didn't practice recipes, I practiced skills.
Smart.
Because I figured I don't know what they're going to throw at me.
Yeah.
So I better practice things and look at things that I have not done frequently, or in some cases, not done before.
Yep.
And figure out, okay, let's see how this works. And then you can kind of break it down, and everything can be broken down into like steps.
Mm.
So if I've got steps A through B to C to D to E, and I understand them individually, I can put them all together.
Yeah. It's one of those things that you hear a lot of people, whenever you hear the judging, and this is something I think people who want to go on should probably pay attention to when they talk about the judging. They often talk about when they're doing the technical, for example, what I want to see, what I want to test is their ability to do this skill, and this skill. And they actually say straight up, this is a combination of 3 different baking techniques that we want to see.
Exactly.
So yeah.
Exactly. They're testing you. That's what it is.
Yeah. They want to see your ability to adapt these techniques into a single bake. So it's clever to actually go off and just go over the skills.
So did you have someone with some flashcards, like, coaching you through it? Like, okay.
Kind of. There was a period where I said to my husband, Carl, okay, 5 days a week or probably 3 to 4 days a week, you're going to tell me to make something and I'm not going to know what it is.
Oh, nice.
Ooh, nice.
So basically 3 to 4 days a week, I was getting a technical challenge.
And your delightful husband, Carl, was getting something tasty.
Yes, he was.
It's a weird situation, folks. When are you auditioning for Bake Off, my love? I will help you.
You're like, I want you to make some random things for me, please.
Yes.
I do that anyway.
I know.
Literally what I do. But no, because that's a really cool way to do it. So set me a technical. I don't know what it is. And also, you get to learn a bunch of new bakes that maybe you're like, oh, I like that one. Like,
Exactly.
I mean, I have to ask because, Bake Off fans want to know. Did you end up making Dampf noodle?
No, I did not make Dampf noodle.
Dampf noodle, come on. Like, it's one of my favorite British bakes of all time when they did that in British Bake Off. It's one of my favorites.
I remember that one.
And I just like to think that there's now pilgrimages to the place where there's a Dampf noodle gate.
The gate. I like the idea there's a bunch of people like in Mary Berry masks just standing at the Dampf noodle.
One day we too will take that pilgrimage.
Why do they all look
I'm down for that.
Why do they look like an old British woman? Oh, okay.
We'll collect some holy water, which is just like the water that the Dampf noodle's been steamed in. Take some relics home.
The spiritual home.
Yes.
So of all the challenges they sort of set you, which was the one you liked the most?
Oh, wow. The one I think I liked the most was probably Biscuit Week. And the showstopper for me was a challenge, but fun.
Yeah.
Because it the hardest thing is figuring out what you're going to do. Yep. I kind of tried to make that decision quickly and then stick to it instead of hem and haw. Nice. So at least I had the time to work with it.
Yeah.
And the Biscuit Week showstopper was a tough one because part of what we were told to do is they had to be 3D.
Yep.
Oh.
So we had no choice. And that was something that was a little tough because let's face it, who makes a 3D cookie sculpture?
No. And I feel like you've also got something which nobody else has to ever worry about with that, which is the weight of previous seasons of the different versions of Bake Off. Where building something, usually out of gingerbread, or building something is a thing that you have to do.
We've seen a Taj Mahal.
We've seen a Taj Mahal in Australia. We've seen the Eiffel Tower. We've seen in the Canadian couple of James made that renewable house with the lights on it.
Exactly.
You've which I think Liam is now living in.
Yeah, which Liam is now living in.
Yes.
You've got the weight of all these previous show-stopping 3D biscuit sculptures. Mm-hmm. So you're not just planning on, what are my friends going to think looks really cool? You're like, there's an audience sitting at home going, but last season they did.
Impress us.
Yeah.
Right. And my first thought, as I'm trying to think through everything, is, okay, well, you don't want to look like an idiot.
That's my everyday life. I wake up in the morning, so don't.
Well, yeah, that too.
Pep talking.
Don't step in it today. But
how was your day, love? Well, I didn't look like an idiot.
Woohoo, winning. But that was the hardest one to do because I wanted to make it as technically challenging as possible. So I created my own templates. I didn't use cookie cutters.
Wow.
I cut everything out by hand.
Oh my God.
And I wanted to make sure that kind of came through. So when I got to the point where I'm starting to put the tree together and, that lovely cliffhanger where it breaks and then I stand there, literally what was going through my head was, well, fuckity fuck.
And you can see that in your eyes, like in that expression, the pause, and I could hear the inner monologue, and all I could hear was swearing.
And as an audience, we were right there with you, because there's just that snap, and it's like, oh, shit.
Yeah, that was literally what happened with us. We were watching it, and it was like a tree snap, and we just both went, shit.
And I did. I panicked for a few minutes. I just stood there. I mean, because there's so much going on, nobody captures everything. You don't make it. I stood there for a couple of minutes and go, what the hell am I going to do? And then I just said, okay, you're a bush. You're a bush.
You're a bush now. Congratulations.
You're a bush now.
You will be peed on at many points.
Exactly. So I ran with it. I just ran with it. Because at the end of the day, I wanted to make sure that I had something to present. I did not want to create another bin gate.
No. Nobody does.
Nobody does. So I figured, let's just do it. And, the cards fall where they may. And when you're in there, you can't panic about how everybody else is doing.
Yeah.
You're really against yourself.
But the other thing, though, about that in terms of the don't panic about what everyone else is doing is you can see the visual of what everyone else is doing, but you can't see the flavour.
No.
And you can't see what the taste is like. It could look spectacular, but there's a problem with the taste. You can't judge, that looks really good. You've just, as you said, it's run your own race.
Yeah.
And that's all you can do. I mean, it's do the best you can yourself within the time allotted to you with what you've been given and what you've brought to prepare.
Mm-hmm.
And if you do the best you can in that, for me, I was happy with that. So, come week 4 for me, when it was time for me to go, I thought I had done probably not the best I could have ever done, but I did the best I could under the circumstances.
Absolutely. So and that's all anyone can do in the shed or the pavilion is do the best you can in that context, because shit is going to go down.
Absolutely. And you know what? When it was my turn to go, I mean, was I thrilled? Absolutely not.
We weren't.
But, thank you. But, when I look at, old school week, or as we like to call it, just slab week.
Was someone dressed as, did Bruno come in as Frankenfurter for that,
No.
Books in how to do.
So come up to them.
And Kyla as Janet? Oh my God, I would have loved that. That would have been awesome. That would have been worth the price of admission alone.
Aurora could have been magenta.
Oh, we could have had
Carolyn probably
Columbia or Riffraff. Riffraff.
Riffraff. Oh yeah, this is great. We've got this.
Okay.
See, I see Aurora Morris Columbia.
Yeah, that's true.
I can see her tap dancing her little heart out. Yeah.
Well, she does have that little Nell kind of vibe to her.
I mean, totally. Absolutely.
You missed out because unfortunately we gave everyone Brooklyn Nine-Nine characters last episode. Although again, Jasmine, we fixed it up on Twitter because we missed Jasmine, but I fixed it.
I did see that. I saw that she was a little,
Melipnos.
Like,
I went with Melipnos and she went with Trudy Judy.
Yes, Trudy Judy.
After a original offer of cheddar.
That's who you can be. You can be Doug Judy, Jay, because you're out there now.
Okay. I can do that.
And when he walks around telling Peralta, Liam,
yeah,
how awesome he is all the time. This works.
It does.
It does work. I can live with that.
You can live with that.
So because I love all the bakers in the pavilion, who were whose bakes did you just adore when you were, in there?
The funny thing is we baked for each other, on the downtime. So, we'd be practicing and, next thing you know, we're all together and Mary Lou would bring down, it's like, oh, well, here I made some scones. Or, it's and everything that everybody brought was fantastic. Mary Lou will forget more than I will ever learn.
Mm-hmm.
She really will. She was absolutely, and still is to this day, one of the most knowledgeable bakers I've ever met.
Oh, wow. Oh,
and
I need the podcast.
And she, she hit a rough patch in the pavilion, and it happens.
Mm-hmm.
And I was crushed to see her go. We all were. And it's, a lot of people ask us, how can you guys really be that close in that short a time? I'm like, oh, yes, you can.
Yeah.
It's
dimension,
Yeah, the Bake Off universe it's a very close knit, and across borders, a close knit family. Everyone gets it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
There's just this, you don't hear of people going on to Bake Off who just don't get it.
And when you're watching, you can see that it's authentic. There's no disingenuity at all in the shows, which is wonderful.
Yeah, and this is why we've always put forward the idea that they need to have, and British, I believe, this season have done the 13th baker. We've argued all the way along there needs to be a fake baker who is just a member of production who goes home in week 1.
They just go back to holding the boom
so
mic.
No one goes home. The guy who goes home is literally just like Stephen, who's holding a boom mic. But you don't know that at home. You think that Stephen is this baker that's gone on to try really hard. In reality, he's production.
He's the guy washing up the dishes.
Yeah, but this way you don't send anyone home in the first week. And everyone...
I like that idea.
no one's taken us up on it yet. We keep pushing it.
And the other thing we keep pushing.
Not that you know of.
Yeah,
No.
Exactly. The other thing we keep pushing is Commonwealth.
Yeah, so we've gone from the original idea we had, which was Bake Off Ashes, Australia versus the UK, and we've now stretched that to the Commonwealth Games. And we keep proposing, and I've actually written up a full format as to how it would run. But
We've
I know
also proposed teams.
I love it.
teams, but that an Australian team, a British team, and a Canadian team
Throw
battle.
South Africa in there too.
No,
No.
New Zealand neither. They can both miss out. But
No,
maybe
you
a
want them
hybrid of both of them.
Yeah, no, you put them in because you need the weakest links for the
To
earlier
be
rounds
beaten.
to stretch this out so we've got more drinking time.
But the idea is
Come
that-
on, Chris, it's the only reason.
drinking time. Okay, gotcha. But the idea then is that you have this sort of Commonwealth Games battle between the shows. Who's to sort of go all Iron Chef on it. Whose cuisine reigns supreme?
Ooh, I like that.
So, like, we've put this forward, and we think that, well, not that we're biased or anything, but we kind of feel like Australia and Canada will be the last two teams standing.
Probably.
So,
Yeah, it'd be good to see you on that team, Jay. We'll just get it
Oh,
going.
it'd be fun. It would be an honor just to be nominated.
and you've had a bit with team sports in Australia anyway. So let's
This is true.
talk rugby.
Oh, good segue.
Absolutely.
Let's talk rugby.
Seamless.
Let's talk Ottawa Wolves, shall we?
Yeah.
So, explain to people in Australia who might not know who the Wolves are.
Well, the Ottawa Wolves is the, I guess we're now called the all-inclusive rugby team in Canada's national capital, Ottawa. My husband Carl and I started that team back in 2008 after
Wow.
we moved back from, let me back up for a sec. My husband Carl works for Global Affairs Canada. So it's basically your DFAT.
Yep.
So he goes on posting from time to time, and I met him when he was on posting in San Francisco and I was living there. He
Ooh.
played with the San Francisco Fog, and when
Yep.
it was time for us to come back, we missed that family. We missed that camaraderie. So
Yes.
we decided to start our own family.
Nice. Oh,
So,
that sounds like a friggin' romantic comedy going right there. I'm for this.
and
The
you know,
Ottawa-
we had a great time. It took a little while, but we got it off the ground. And the neatest part that we think is we played our first full season, and then he and I left for Sweden. And we were overseas for 5 years. And when we came back, it was still going strong.
That's nice.
That's a beautiful foundation laid.
It is. It really is. And I'm back involved with the club now.
Yep.
And we are hosting the Bingham Cup in 2020.
Nice.
Which is the Gay Rugby World Cup, and both Carl, my husband, and I are on that board.
And
Nice.
of course the last lot of the Bingham Cup
Mhm.
was in Sydney.
It was indeed.
It was. With the convicts.
Well, actually, 2 years ago it was in Amsterdam.
Amsterdam. Sorry, my
Ah.
bad. I missed the Amsterdam one.
Yeah.
I remember the Sydney
No one remembers the Amsterdam ones.
No one remembers what happened.
Well, no, they're all stoned. No.
Yeah, lots of cafes. But no, there's the Sydney one I remember quite strongly because it was the publicity was everywhere in Sydney.
Yeah.
You couldn't move without it. And the Sydney convicts are really actually high profile within Australia as well.
They are very much so, and within IGR or gay rugby in general, because they are one of the larger teams. Even though it's a team out of the UK that is the oldest team and one of the first one, and then San Francisco Fog was the second gay rugby team. Yeah,
That's
yeah,
cool.
and the neat thing is who the Bingham Cup is named for. If you're not aware of, is Mark Bingham, who was on United Flight 93, and he is one of the guys that took down the jet in Pennsylvania to keep it from. Yeah, so he was one of the founders of the San Francisco Fog, as well as one of the founders of the New York Gotham Knights.
Oh wow! Oh, what a beautiful tribute to him and his courage and his spirit. Oh, I've got chills. Oh, look at me! I'm goosebumping.
You are goosebumping. She is goosebumping. I'm not lying there.
Oh.
So no, that's a really awesome thing. And I mean, I liked as well when they did your little sort of bit to camera, the sort of the halftime cookies. Which doesn't seem good for the whole building up lactic acid and things like that. But
No, he sprinkled Gatorade on top. Just mixed with the icing.
Gatorade cooking.
Yeah, but they're rugby players. They'll eat anything.
Well, I never understood the halftime orange. I never got that it's horrible. Like if you talk to a sports scientist about the halftime orange, they'll look at you and go, "Why? Like it's an acid. Don't do that." And I actually, because I didn't play rugby, I played soccer when I was a goalkeeper. And when we used to do, I had the halftime orange as kids, and I didn't, because there was one day I had the halftime orange and immediately got sick in the goal mouth.
Oh God! Ew!
Because I'm running around and moving around, and then you stop and have this acid, and they're like, "Now go back to running around," and I'm like, "Oh no, I don't want to do that."
I didn't need the halftime oranges to get sick because I've got a very high insulin resistance, and I didn't realize that as a teenager. So I'd be running my boobs off on the basketball court. And
running your boobs off on the basketball court.
Like literally running my boobs off on the basketball court. And then have to beg my coach to be subbed out so I could run to the bathrooms, vomit my guts up, almost faint, recover, and then get back on the court.
She was a superstar.
Oh, dear God.
She was a superstar.
Wow.
And then of
that's
course,
dedication.
And then, of course, you got to work all this into your first bake. And
what? My vomit?
Not your vomit. His rugby.
Okay.
We're talking about Jay.
All right.
And what I loved about that was when you put the goals up and Andrea's gone and they've turned around to you and they've gone, will the rugby ball be going through the goal? And you're like, no, I'm not that good.
No, not going to happen.
So yeah,
I'm lucky I got it up there at all at that point. That first bake is always the hardest.
And that's what we keep on saying. Fake first round. Just fake first round.
Fake first round.
Nobody would complain.
No.
We do sort of also have to talk about that slab cake that you made at the end, the Rainbow Pride slab. That, first of all, that looked incredible.
Thank you.
Having the different colours through it as well was just, as you peeled that bit of sort of the paper off the top of it, it was a sight to behold.
Well, thank you.
I
thought so.
It was really.
It didn't taste very good, but.
No, I don't care. The visual was amazing.
It looked so pretty. It's like at Mardi Gras when they, like Sydney Mardi Gras, I should say, because when you go Mardi Gras to people in like the States and stuff, they automatically think New Orleans. But when we go Mardi Gras,
no.
we're like, no, gay and lesbian, bisexual, trans, everyone, all the way.
No, I'm queer. I think Sydney.
Excellent.
Yeah, exactly.
Now I have just had an awesome idea. We need a bake-off float in Mardi Gras one year.
Yes.
Just
okay. You get Kylie on that float, and I'm down there.
Done.
Well, I'm thinking we get Sue Perkins, we get Sandy Togsvig, how many Mel Buttle. We have got so many lesbian hosts around the world.
We can do this.
We can do this.
And gay bakers.
Gay bakers. Yes.
Oh my God, I love this idea.
And there's probably a lot of bi bakers, queer friendly.
We have everyone. This is great. Oh, a bake-off float. Why have we not thought of this before?
It could be like
oh my God, that's a great idea.
And it can just be an excuse to get everyone down here as well for a massive podcast for Mardi Gras week.
I just hope one person will do drag and pop out of a cake. That's just...
One person.
Okay, I want
one person. The float is just everyone jumping out of the cake.
Yes.
It's got to be. It's the only
I love that idea.
This has to happen.
And we also have a lot of gay and queer fans too, and we can all join in.
This could be fantastic.
Oh my God. I'm excited.
I'm excited to be a part of this concept.
We haven't, not next year. We don't have enough time.
No.
There's not enough glitter.
Not with that attitude. Sprinkles.
Oh, okay. We're shooting sprinkle cannons.
Sprinkle cannons.
Sprinkles and hundreds of thousands.
Absolutely.
Instead of a foam party, it's a meringue party.
Meringue and buttercream.
Colin will want to be for that. Colin will be there for that.
Chocolate work pasties. It's all happening.
This is going to be...
Colin can bring his mer people.
Yes, I'll be a bi mermaid. Just all purple, pink, and blue.
Oh, that would be spectacular. We have to get this going.
Yes,
we have to get this float operating. It's got to happen now.
And surely we can get enough, like sponsorship from baking product people.
Oh God, yeah.
I have no doubt they'll sponsor in a heartbeat.
Oh yeah.
So, in terms of obviously then, that cake there was. I mean, even though, as I said, there was an issue in terms of flavour of the judging and things like that. That cake there was just a very impressive cake, and also I think it was good because the inclusivity in that cake.
Representation.
A lot of very positive representation, obviously, in that cake. And as we've said as well, we know there's a big audience out there of these shows that really appreciates that representation too.
Well, I mean, I'm a little older than the average baker in our current season. So,
you were the only one who said you remembered Elvis. So
yeah, I remembered Elvis. And as I said, when Carolyn and Kyla and Bruno came around, when I was a kid, I never thought about what the possibility is of getting married would be. And, it was just something I never considered. And here I am, on my 11th wedding anniversary.
Oh.
And it's neat. Representation is so important.
Yep.
Absolutely.
To see yourself out there. And, I'm kind of an overweight, bearish kind of guy who looks like Santa when the beard is grown in, but, hey, there's a market for everything. But, I wanted, it was supposed to be a celebration cake. And I wanted to celebrate something that was important to me because I feel I'm fortunate enough to live in a country where I can do that on TV.
Absolutely.
And it's not a big deal. And, Carolyn caught into that as well. And, it's, there were moments that you didn't see on camera that were just amazing that I kind of keep to myself because they're mine.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But, I'm glad I did it.
Yeah.
I would absolutely do it again. And it was important for me. And I'm proud of that.
Yes, you should be. And it was something that, we can tell you from the audience that we've got in Australia, we know there are a lot of people in the Australian audience who definitely clicked with that moment and found that very important and sort of, it was something that they really appreciated. And it was something that they found to be, something very important to them.
Yeah. GLT.
And I'm glad.
It's still in its infancy. There's a long history of oppression and only a very short history of equality starting to be made, made mainstream in society, even in the most progressive societies. So, the fight can never stop.
The fight will never end. I mean, as much as I look at kids today, and I see kids in the news who, they're coming out to their parents at like 9, 10, 12. And I'm like, oh my God, good for you.
Yeah.
I was like, oh dear God, nobody look at me. But, you'll figure it out. Don't look at me. But, it's so nice that kids don't have to have that fear. I mean, some kids still do.
Yep.
And I want them to be able to see that it is okay. It does get better.
Absolutely. And it's one of those things that, like, when I was growing up, I knew what gay was, I knew what lesbian was. I had no idea what bisexual was. So I didn't have a language or a vocabulary around my own gender, like my own sexual orientation. And it was very confusing growing up. And I think it's wonderful that there is more knowledge about the rainbow of sexual identities and gender identities these days, so that people that have a vocabulary, they can work themselves out and talk to their friends and family about. So, it's all...
and it's important. I mean, it really is, because, and as I've said to some of my friends who they consider themselves queer and they go by they, them, and if you use the wrong pronoun, they sometimes get angry. And I said, look, this is just like coming out as a gay person.
Yeah.
I've had years to figure this out. Now you're asking me to do something a little different. You've had the time to plant it in your head and get it right. Yeah. Give me a little time to practice.
Yeah.
I support you, but I may goof up.
And it's something that I can say I've seen through education here and my involvement with education here, is that as the generations move forward, you get more and more of that just acceptance of, yep, nope, that's perfectly
normal.
Yeah. And you know, I've had, you know, whole classes of kids who we have to discuss things like gender, and when you say things like, you know, the idea of gender is a social construct, and they go, "Yep, no, we get that. That makes perfect sense." And you go from that, from groups about 5 years ago where someone might have said 5-10 years ago where someone might have said they were gay or had those sorts of feelings, that people would have looked at them in a completely different light. And now there's a lot more. Yeah, no, cool, awesome.
Yeah, and that's as it should be, and that's absolutely amazing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Now, before we let you go, we need to also just talk about just quickly, just the amazing group of people that you were in there with. Just a little bit more. This is just as a group of people, and it's just a camaraderie and sort of just a group of people to watch on television.
Mm-hmm.
It just looks like the most fun, wonderful, warm group of people you could have ever hoped to have been in one of these situations with.
And that's absolutely how it is. I don't know how they pick us. I don't know what formula they use, but the minute we all met for the first time, it was like you find your tribe.
Oh.
You know, you've all been through the same thing. You have that stress in common. They take away your phones, so you have to talk to each other.
Like each other. No phone.
You know,
selfies. What
but,
do I do?
you know, you start talking about an experience or a frustration, and they're like, oh, God, no, I felt the same way. And then you think to yourself, oh, my God, these people actually get it. And then you start learning about each other as individuals and, you know, what experiences they have and who they are and what makes them tick. And, you know, I mean, we would be up way later than we probably should have been just talking.
Yep, that's a common thing we've heard from many people on different versions
I'm
of the
now
show.
imagining you all with like your sleeping bags in someone's like living room in one of the apartments and like popcorn and giggling.
Yeah, I mean, we would all order out, like, you know, there were a couple of where we were, there were a lot of Asian restaurants around. So Chris would just say, I'm going to order all this. Or Colin would go, I'm going to order all this and you're just going to like it. And we're like, okay. And then we would sit around for hours and hours and just talk or play Cards Against Humanity.
Yeah, which is also a fun way to get to learn what people are like.
We need to collectively get together and make a Cards Against Bake Off set.
Yes.
I think that's a fantastic idea.
And it'll go alongside the game beautifully.
What I will say is what you see in the episodes is who these people are. They are so warm and so silly and so fun to be with. And we all have those moments of, how the hell did I get here? Aww. Why am I here? And we all support each other to this day, you know, that we are constantly in touch with each other daily, all 10 of us. And it's something that I didn't expect, but I can't imagine it being any different.
And more importantly as well, you got an experience that no one else gets, because it's not every day you get in a room with a woodland fawn and a mermaid.
And a mermaid.
And a mermaid. And
did you ever see Andrea's tail? Like that?
Nope. But you know what? She was always the first one down with coffee. So, you know, she probably,
that's what it is.
You know, I don't think she slept because, you know, mermaids do not sleep well out of water.
No, exactly.
But I mean, actually, you know, she's not just a mermaid, she's a mermicorn.
Oh my God.
You can't see Kristie's face right now.
A mermicorn.
You can't see Kristie's face right now, but she's definitely fangirling over the mermicorn.
Yes.
It's a sight to behold, actually. I'm quite impressed with it. Thank you so much for coming on, Jay. We have had an absolute
Thank you for having me. I had an absolute blast, and I love listening to you guys. I just absolutely laugh my ass off every time you guys are on.
That's what we do too. I mean, if anyone saw on the Instagram when Liam made the comment about when he named his endangered species and did the cake for the Hope You Don't Go Extinct for Grace,
yes.
Caribou.
Yes, for Grace.
If anyone saw that Instagram video, that wasn't staged. That was literally the end of what was 5 minutes.
Me almost passing out
Kristie
laughing.
almost passing out laughing. We had to pause, had to stop because Kristie was almost falling off the lounge. It was...
If you guys ever get the chance to talk to Liam, and I highly suggest you do.
Yes.
Ask Liam about the time he placed a personal ad for his starter.
Liam, you've been warned. It's coming. So-
Virginia, I cannot wait.
That's coming.
He is.
Oh, that's the perfect note to end the episode on. Thank you very much, Jay, for coming on. It's been wonderful. Is there anything you want to promote quickly before we finish up?
No, nope, I'm good. Just keep continuing to watch the show, even though I'm not here.
Yeah, definitely.
Please watch please watch along with me and see what my friends in the tent create, because I'm sure it's going to be absolutely amazing. You're going to laugh. You're going to cry. And, yeah, exactly. It's going to be fantastic.
So until next episode, I'm still Chris.
And I'm still Kristie.
We'll catch you all later.
Mamicon!